So here we are at Shroud Hearth Barrow for our first Skyrim Archaeological survey exploration of the ancient Nord tombs, and I'm quite excited to be starting this project. It's taken us a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
has.
yeah, but we're
Some
here.
technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties, technical fun
Hmm.
we've been having. But Shroud Hearth Barrow is a good place to start because it's one of the first barrows that you come across. It's not one of the first ancient Nordic sites that you're sent to in the campaign. The first of those is much larger, much more complicated than this site. But this is actually a barrow that's at the foot of the throat of the world, at the bottom of the stairs that lead to High Hrothgar. And it's also an interesting little site to start with because it's not too complicatedly connected to other parts of the map. For example, there's no extended quest lines or other
Hmm.
things or literature in the in-game world. We, of course, will be highlighting the location of this site using the UESP Skyrim map, and
It's
it's an
amazing.
amazing map that they put together. And of course we'll link to that on the blog and also in any attached information to this video or stream. But really, I suppose just before we really get going on this, what are you wanting to achieve with these explorations of the Barrows, Liv?
Well, I think that the barrows themselves are a great way to see both how deep the lore goes,
Mm-hmm.
and also the actual archaeology of Skyrim.
Mm.
Because as an archaeologist, you can walk through Skyrim and go like, "Oh, look, work."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But well, and also in that sense, you see the ruins of relatively recent settlements, more ancient settlements. You see whole cultures like the Dwemer who are now
Indeed.
disappeared, and this is just a nice gentle place to start our survey. After we've done all the barrows, who knows where we'll go on to? But let's start with the barrows today.
Yes.
So, shall we approach Shroud Hearth
Yes.
Barrow?
So we're coming up from Iverstead,
Yeah.
the little town that's just right by it.
And Iverstead, it's worthwhile saying that this ruin is located northeast of Iverstead. It has two interior zones, Shroud Hearth Barrow and Shroud Hearth Depths. And the
Mhm.
residents of Iverstead believe the barrow is haunted.
Indeed.
Wilhelm, the local innkeeper, provides the Dragonborn, you as the player, with the most information about the barrow, citing the example of Windilius Gartharian, an adventurer who tried exploring the barrow a year earlier, but never returned. Goodness me. And
It's
so go on.
it's a hard life
It is a hard
being an
life.
adventurer.
Yeah, yeah. But especially being an archaeologist in Skyrim, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to come across these sorts of things.
I,
We could,
I think the two goes together,
yeah,
sort of.
yep.
You kind of become an adventurer if you choose to do archaeology in Skyrim.
Yes, yeah. Well, at the very least, you become very adept at avoiding traps and evil wizard types. Now, you, as we approach the barrow here, are you struck by anything in particular about its setting and the landscape?
Well, it's actually put on a bit of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And as we can see, it's hard to say if it's made by choice or if it's a later invention. But there is a path going from the main village
Hmm.
straight up to the stairs of the barrow.
Hmm. That said, though, the main road itself sort of almost bypasses the barrow, doesn't it?
Indeed.
It sort of comes into the centre of Ivarstead, avoiding this, and so you do get a sense that this is a priority probably for the Ivarstead community to have
Indeed.
access, but it's not necessarily for people. People aren't necessarily expected to stop by casually as they're going on their business and passing by.
And
So
that's something you can see on most barrows. They will not have clear paths leading all the way up to them.
yeah, so that's is the main road just over there to the right, I think.
Yes. You can see the bridge there.
Yeah. Yeah. And going off in that direction. Yeah. Okay. Now, so it's on a rise from the perspective of Ivarstead,
Hmm.
but it looks. Did the land flatten out around the back though? Is it much less on a hill further
Yes,
over there, further to
I'm
the
on
east?
top of the barrow now,
Yeah.
and as we can see, the hill continues.
Yeah, yeah. So again from the employing phenomenology from the perspective of Ivostedians, if that's a word, the barrow is on a rise, but for everyone else, it's not in necessarily a super prominent place in the landscape. So it's
Indeed,
all focusing in back in on this community here, which is
indeed.
quite interesting.
Which also, I think you have to take in account the top of the world and
Hmm.
the stairs up to High Hrothgar
Yeah,
when talking about this barrow,
yeah.
because
Well, that's a good point actually. Do you think the fact that it is essentially just across the bridge from the bottom of the stairs that lead to the top of the throat of the world. That is a significant spot to be.
I think so, and I also think that its existence so close to something that is so culturally important
Hmm.
to the rest of Skyrim
Hmm.
points to the barrow maybe being more for the local residents,
Hmm.
because it hasn't been put in direct connection with the stairs.
No, no, that's true. That's true. So this is almost like possibly their stepping stone to that greater significance. But again, it's
Possibly,
not necessarily for other people to stop by. Okay.
indeed.
Uh, okay. Well, as we approach the entrance, then, if we get off this lovely sacred site, they were standing on someone's grave. Um, as we approach the site, for example, I mean, the closest analogy I can think of would be almost like maybe a Neolithic sort of chamber tomb,
Yeah,
where there is evidence often in the real world for people feasting outside and communing, as it were, with the dead. Whereas it seems that in Skyrim, this activity happens quite often inside that space, doesn't it? There's not really much
indeed.
happening out here. It seems to be a bit
No,
weedy. There's no real offerings, and although there is some human remains just there in the entrance, which is interesting.
it is.
Someone's left a
And
skull
there's
behind.
also these obviously disturbed
Mm,
and
mm.
broken resting places and coffins
Yeah, yeah,
just on the inside.
yeah. So do you think that this is the beginning of a series of stages that bodies go through in these spaces? Then are these recently deceased, perhaps? Do you think, and then they'll be taken
Possibly. I
further down?
also would say that it might be a question of status.
Oh, okay, okay. But
Um,
which way round? Is it higher up or lower down?
I would say that the further into the barrow you get, the more high status you seem to be.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. What about
it's
the poor guy who's just got his head in the entrance? So he just
well, well,
they
we
might that be Ivar Stead's drunkard. He's just
yeah,
like
maybe.
okay. Well, that said, though, actually, I mean, speaking, looking at the dishevelled and disturbed nature of these remains, it's likely actually that's as they say, unstratified remains over there in the
Indeed.
doorway. But it could also be a case that actually even the most it's better to be as close to as possible these tombs in death. And therefore, maybe if you're not technically really allowed or you're not welcome in this tomb, maybe someone has put your skull there just on the off chance that it might help you, get on in the afterlife, as it were.
Maybe.
So,
We also have to take in consideration the serious amount of looting that happens
yeah,
in
yeah,
Skyrim.
yeah, not least by the Dragonborn, him or herself.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Of course, you wouldn't want to comment at all on whether or not you've looted these tombs.
No,
Um,
no.
okay, well, one of the things that I always notice as well when we come into these spaces is that the candles are lit. Now,
Yes.
now, obviously, we can say, well, that's game design. They're lit because they're there. But within the world, it kind of makes me think that this space is at least being intermittently used or respected in some way, and people
Hmm.
come here either for remembrance or actually for practical reasons. Because further round towards the back of this space, there is in fact, a table for seemingly preparing the dead, almost like an embalming process, isn't there?
Indeed.
And again, this makes me wonder whether what happens is you leave recently deceased in these upper cysts or kists, and then you bring them to the embalming table to prepare them for the next stage, and they go down into the barrow. But then again, as you say, it could be a social hierarchy thing. Maybe actually, only people of a certain status get to be eventually put onto this table and prepared and then taken down. I mean, are there any tools or anything that we can see on the?
Yes, we have
table?
some embalming tools.
Mm-hmm.
We have some linens to
Yeah.
wrap,
Mm-hmm.
and we have an urn,
Mm-hmm.
possibly for organs
Yeah.
or for belongings, since you can find coin in those more often than not.
Well, actually, that's something as well that I've always wondered about. And again, as I imagine, as these surveys accrue, we'll be commenting on these specifics less and less because we'll have already commented on them. But the fact that so many pots in these tombs have a single coin in them. Now, again, that's a game design element, you could say, but also a single coin in so many of them. That could be something that's symbolic of something. It's maybe symbolic of a full hoard. I mean, in the Roman world, a pot filled with coins was a talent, I believe it was called. It was a weight of coinage or gold, and so maybe a single coin within the pot is sort of saying, well, essentially, yeah, you've got a pot of gold here. This'll do for the afterlife. This kind of thing. Technically, yeah.
It's a pot and it has gold in it, so
yeah,
it's
exactly. Yeah. We care about our loved ones. We also want to have a house. Yeah. So further round then on the other side, because this space has two entrances, isn't it? It's almost like a croissant of a space. And then, okay, so we have more of the same as well. With with more disturbed remains. Do you think that that this space is architecturally tended to, or do you think that part of its character is in fact that it's allowed to weather and fall apart? Because it's just strange that you've got blocks of stone falling into some of these spaces.
I think it can't be very tended to as a structure.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it would be in a better state if it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I also don't know if the dragon cult that would be the builders of these barrows are active within society, or if they are a dead civilization. I think they're shunned.
Well, yes, yeah, that's true actually, and in that sense, these ancient Nord barrows are a remnant of when the residents of Skyrim were worshipping dragons in a time long ago. But also, I suppose in that sense, I mean, because I'm curious then about what is there for the relationship between the current people of Ivarstead and this place as a space for the dead, because there's nowhere else around these places where we see graves or
indeed,
other types of burial.
We can come across graveyards in other places in Skyrim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously, they do tend to their dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but maybe there's some possibly a folk or a countryside version of that still attaches the recently deceased to these spaces.
Possibly.
Okay. Okay. Possibly. But also as well, of course, we're operating in the context that Wilhelm, the local innkeeper, has told us that this is a haunted barrow. So, that might explain some of it.
In that, when he explained that to us, he also asked us to do something about it because it was scaring the local townspeople. So obviously, they aren't comfortable with the ghosts being in the barrow.
No, or the Draugr. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, shall we enter Shroud Hearth Barrow? Okay. In we go. Ooh, level 43.
Yeah. And this is a redo.
Okay. I think I'm up to about 200 or 300 hours in Skyrim. I know that's not as hardcore as you, possibly. But okay, so we're entering down into the barrow, and immediately, obviously, we have a wooden descent. And this is interesting because outside the barrow, in the upper level, there's no real hint of wood being part of the structure. And I wonder if that's part of this phenomenological aspect, whereby outside everything is stone, everything is solid, everything is impressive. Inside, actually, if you look at the ceiling again there, inside even the structure itself is a little bit ramshackle, a little bit held together, but also crucially doesn't have to be made out of stone.
Indeed.
Perhaps once you're in this sort of slightly more private place, they don't have to be, as it were, pretending for onlookers anymore.
Indeed. I mean, I would say that if they wanted to give the same impression that they were doing on the outside, they would have had some masonry or something in the ceiling. Now it's just a sheer structure and what seems to be some kind of filler material to create roof.
Yeah. And actually a relatively, I mean, solid, but relatively crude construction as well of the staircase heading down.
Indeed.
And also seemingly little concern about the fact that it is a very damp space. There's lots of roots coming into the area.
Indeed.
Perhaps in that sense, these wooden staircases were not intended to last forever. Maybe it's a case of once the tomb fills up, they allow the staircase to rot away. That's a possibility.
Absolutely. I mean, in such damp conditions, stairs made of wood in this fashion will disappear.
And therefore, actually, this could be deliberately a space which is eventually going to actually be sealing the tomb from the outside world. I quite like that, actually.
Yes.
This could essentially be some sort of undead safety mechanism, actually. And you know what? That's never occurred to me. That's literally never occurred to me until just now. But I like that as an idea, actually.
Yeah, and I also think that you can see like the shift between temporary and permanent when you come to the bottom of the stairs, and they actually have a laid floor beneath the wood.
Yeah, exactly what they do precisely, and so yeah, I think that might be a feature. That might be a reason for the wooden stairs. That's something to bear in mind for future
doing
surveys.
Actual archaeology.
Yeah, goodness me, actual archaeology. Now we also have this bookcase here with various materials on it, and this is something that's always interested me. Is why do you need these little spaces with books and things in a tomb? Does this speak to the notion that actually there would be ongoing rituals happening within the tomb, possibly when they whether it's part of actually interring deceased people, or whether it's part of just tending to the underground portion of the tomb, that they need to have reference material?
I would say so. I mean, if we look at what we have in this bookcase, we have linen wrappers, which would aid in taking care of the deceased, either by in the process of embalming them and interring them, or maybe some maintenance after they have been interred.
Yep.
We have a lantern, which is handy when you're walking in the dark.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And we have these ruined books that we don't know what they were, but possibly some rituals or connected to the practices within the crypt, maybe.
Possibly, and also the fact that, in that sense, the fact that with the ruined book, you can't open them. You don't know what's inside them. It could be an element of maintenance and this kind of thing. The soul gem as well is interesting because within Skyrim, you can trap the souls of defeated enemies within them, and that could speak to a slight element of protection. Maybe they knew that the deceased could come back to life.
Indeed. I would also like to point out that the soul gem is resting next to a healing potion.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got people coming down here.
I can't imagine the healing potion being for the dead.
No, exactly. Yeah. So it's almost like having a vicar who's looking after a graveyard who just has to carry with him some zombie serum just in case. I also quite like the intricate nature of the decoration on the bookcase as well, on the sides, and also actually on the inside. It almost looks like a snail shell repeating over and over again.
Indeed.
It's quite beautiful. Okay, cool. Right. So, well, on we go, onwards and
Yes.
inwards, I guess.
This is the first room then, coming down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And it leads out into a hallway, which is in a so-so condition, as we can see.
Mm-hmm. Looks like there's been a bit of collapse there.
Indeed. And we can find interred dead just in the hallway, straight away.
Yeah. So these are what I suppose what you would call catacombs in that sense. This isn't in that again in that sort of strict sense. This is not actually a barrow. Therefore, barrows tend to be well, actually, they tend to be almost completely sealed, and they tend to be spaces where you have to crawl, or you certainly can't walk around and jump up and down in. This feels much more like a catacomb, the sort of thing that you might find again in the real world, in a place like maybe Rome or
Indeed.
this sort of place.
Paris.
But okay, and so what do you think then of this as this theory then of increasing importance as we go through? Because these guys are buried just outside of what looks like a fairly substantial gate.
Indeed, and I would also say that if we discount the collapsed pillar, the first thing that you would see stepping out of the doorway coming down the stairs is this guarding interred person behind the gates.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Wouldn't see these people.
No.
You would see someone guarding the barrow.
That's true, actually. Yeah. So you'd see not so much someone who's laid to rest, but someone who is upright and looking back at you up the corridor. Yeah. That's interesting. And so in that sense, maybe then actually, these people who are laying in the catacombs outside are it's almost like a almost like a nightclub, and that's the bouncer. They're waiting to get in. They're not yet on the list.
Maybe. I would also say that they don't get the same protection as the others, or maybe they aren't as dangerous, depending on how you view it.
Yeah.
Since they're on this side of the gate.
Yeah, and also especially if we're looking at the wooden staircase as a potential rot away, or even actually a burnable structure, a structure that can be rapidly destroyed deliberately as a safety mechanism. This metal gate is another seal as well. And it's not so much necessarily about keeping people out as possibly keeping these potentially dangerous Draugr within. That's quite cool, actually. Also, as well, all across on the stones you see lovely sort of spiralling engravings and artwork as well.
Indeed.
It's very reminiscent of places like the Boyne Valley Neolithic tombs.
Indeed.
Beautiful stuff. And also, actually, there's similar as well to some stones that you see in parts of Scandinavia as well.
It is. Yeah. And I would say that it indicates that this isn't an unimportant part of the barrow.
No.
Because it's still decorated and it's done very neatly and to great extent.
Yeah.
And that takes time.
Yeah, so it's not so important, it's just a different category than what's beyond this gateway. Okay. Okay, shall we go through the gates then?
Yes. And this is a great piece of drama, I would say.
Yeah, especially with the lighting. He's lit from below. Yeah. And then you also have further catacomb interments on both sides of him. So actually that adds to this notion of actually, and you've got people on the left hand.
Indeed. So when you walk in, and if you turn around, you have one on each side behind you.
Yeah.
Flanking you.
So you're immediately surrounded in that sense. That's quite interesting. And also, can you see that there's two holes in the wall to each side of the doorway there? There's actually, is that, are those little recesses for candles, perhaps? I think they are.
I would also maybe say that it can be a trap.
Oh, possibly. That's a good point. Yes. Yeah. Interesting.
And then, of course, we have a locked gateway here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
An open gateway here, and a way back. So you can't just walk through it all in one go. You have to know the procedure to be able to go forth.
Yeah, no, you do, and presumably, if when this was a more active space in terms of people visiting it more regularly, there might have been. You wouldn't have necessarily had the time to leisurely figure your way through. You know, if you didn't know your way through, you're going to get caught at some point trying to make your way through. Whereas because this space is essentially abandoned to the living, we can figure out how to get past the traps and sort of feel our way through, as opposed to.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I would also remind us that we are the Dragonborn, and we have some experience that a regular visitor might lack.
That's true. That's a good point. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So then we go through to another sort of what almost feels like a sort of a bit of a staging area, with further tools and what looks like basically another embalming table, but actually
Indeed.
Much more in the way of it almost feels like someone's private study.
Well, it sure does feel like it has been left in a hurry. It isn't as neat as the bookcase that we just saw.
No, that's true.
We have books just laying about.
Yeah. But we also, again, we have little slots for people to be laid to rest as well on either side. It's such an interesting juxtaposition of fairly mundane storage and in that sense a place where people are stored forever, as it were. It's so it's well, again, it all speaks to the idea that this is actually a place where people are doing things with confidence. They're confident that they're not being observed. Presumably, you wouldn't have bodies and books next to each other outside. Whereas inside, you can get on with whatever rituals you're doing. You can do the business of the day, and also as well, because it's all sealed. There's a sense that, almost like I don't know, priest in the sort of in a sanctum or something. You have there's a certain amount of mundane ritual that's bound to occur within these private spaces, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, this is the space I feel that opens up the barrow further. You have to know this space to be able to go forth.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. In that sense, this is well, actually, this is kind of like a security guard's office in that sense.
Indeed.
Yeah, a spiritual security guard. Yeah. Okay, so do you know the secrets?
Well, I have enough health levels to survive either way. As you just saw. So that one.
Oh, indeed, yes. No, I think there is just a slight delay for me, but nonetheless, yeah. As you're unlocking this mechanism, yes, you have to be able to withstand. Is that possibly then what the health is for as you enter the tomb?
Someone getting it wrong on a bad day.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's not impossible. I mean, you wouldn't want the regular priest dying doing his job just because he forgot what lever to pull.
No, that's true. But also, presumably, is it possible to open that gate without hurting yourself?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So they, in that sense, it's very specifically a test of it's a lock to which if you know the answer, you have essentially the key. And if you don't know the answer, you're likely to get injured, if not killed. Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
And it also, the only way to go forth is to lock the way out.
Yeah. So it's almost like a
failsafe.
Well, a failsafe, or like or what do they call it? It's like leaving a spaceship, or a submarine. There's an airlock. That's it, an airlock.
Indeed.
It's that type of situation. Yeah. Whereas again, this is a spiritual or a monster airlock. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yep.
So now we can go forth.
Okay. Go forth.
And we have more locked doors.
Mm-hmm.
Or more locked doors.
Okay. Now, again, you very much get the impression that the solid locked doors, now from memory, I think as far as I recall, behind the solid locked doors, is there a standing up Draugr? Can't quite recall. And then beyond the barred gates, you go deeper into the barrow.
Well, it's an easy way to find out.
Okay, yeah, let's check. Yep. Or is it just
a very important archaeological tool?
Yeah.
The lockpick.
Do you know, actually, my amazing wife has learned to pick locks. She's got quite good at it. Yeah. Although she's not an archaeologist. Oh no, this is not the space I thought it was. This is a place with a treasure chest and...
Indeed, and a trap.
And a trap, yeah. Now those buttons, do we have any sense of what the spiral sort of design on those buttons indicates? Because in that sense, it's not a great trap mechanism when they highlight the button for you. Or do you think it's a case of normal people who aren't, as it were, the Dragonborn, or who aren't priests of this cult, simply won't spot that design, and they'll
I'm also thinking that it's obviously a warning sign for the initiated to not step on this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it also, I mean, it could be that normal people know about it, but if you're in a fight, if you're trying to protect the barrow, or if you're an outsider breaking in,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you won't know that sign.
That's true, and especially given that an awful lot of the rest of the barrow is fairly innocently, intricately decorated.
Indeed.
I guess you wouldn't necessarily know. I suppose in that sense, yes, we are observing this from the standpoint of having put hundreds of hours into this game. Whereas actually, I seem to recall the first time I played it, I didn't realise that was a button.
Indeed.
I think I did actually step on it. Yeah. Okay. So what? Just out of interest.
And it's also placed right beside the door or behind the door.
Yeah.
So it's the first thing you will step on when you go in.
Especially if you go, ooh, treasure chest, and you don't even look down.
And just la la la.
So presumably, if you step on that button, the 6 holes behind the treasure chest will shoot arrows at you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you have taken feats that make you so light that they won't react.
Okay, so you're a light-footed, light-fingered archaeologist. I like it. Again, we have upstanding. Well,
Citizen.
not Draugr, but certainly deceased people. Yeah. Okay. And do you think actually that all dead people become Draugr, or not? Or do you think it's just certain dead people?
Well, it seems to be certain people,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know if it's a natural process,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or if it's decided that they shall remain the guardians of the barrows.
Yeah. Maybe, perhaps as part of their internment, they are assigned that role, whether through ritual or even potentially through the manner of their death. They may actually choose to.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Mm.
I do not know enough about the culture to make a fair assessment.
No. Fun game developing fact, though. Did you know that the Draugr are assigned their appearance randomly?
Yeah.
So you can have a very female-looking Draugr with a man's head and a beard.
Nice.
Because it's completely procedurally generated. It's quite funky. So the treasure chest appears to have a booby trap.
Should we unleash the booby trap just to show what it does?
Oh,
For
go
science.
on. Go on then, for science, okay.
And I won't loot it because we're archaeologists.
Yep. Ah! Amethyst, okay. Golden Dwarven Battle Axe. Oh, and there we go.
There we have the culprit.
Yeah. Wow. They're actually, again, there's a subtle warning there. They almost look like monsters' heads, don't they? Or snakes or something. Yeah. It's an intricate mechanism. And so it all leads me to wonder whether this material, in terms of the stuff that's kept in these chests, but also the people themselves and the books and everything else, whether this material is being stored down here for use by these people eventually. So some sort of belief that these, almost like an ancient Egyptian belief, that they become physically useful to these people in the afterlife or whatever.
I mean, we can see that in ancient Nordic culture as well, that you bury people with what they will need in their afterlife.
That's true. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I suppose yes, in individual graves as opposed to in big tomb structures, but you'll tend to have people with swords and foodstuffs and combs and things in Nordic burials. No, sorry, in real world Scandinavian burials, not obviously Skyrim Nordic. But also, actually, so there's that potential. But also, I guess there's the potential that this material is simply here to be useful to the undead, so to those people who are coming back to life, as it were, some form of life within the tomb, or this material is here for the use of practitioners and people coming down here and tending to the tomb. Indeed. I guess that's not entirely clear, is it? I guess
it's not, and I would say that seeing how they have trapped it, it's the one thing we can say clearly is that it's not for general consumption. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
it's behind a locked door. There are multiple traps. So it's obviously that it's not meant for anyone to just break in and take it.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's not for normal people. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So on we go then, I guess.
Yes.
So how do we access the space beyond the barred gate then?
We have a chain.
Oh, I see. Yes.
But you can't just run in. You have to wait, otherwise you get stabbed.
Really? Oh, blimey! Sorry, yes, I think there is just a slight delay at my end, but wow, okay, that's great. Yeah, okay, that's not like a normal. That's not a. But again, that's interesting because that's access inwards though that's being discouraged. Yeah. So this idea of having this seal in that first space where one gate opens, one gate closes, but then and also having the burnable or rotting steps at the beginning seemingly prevents access from the inside, but that's definitely discouraging access further down into the space as well.
It is.
Interesting. So do you think then that actually there's a balance here where they're trying to discourage maybe looters or people messing with their dead, but also they're aware that the dead here are inherently dangerous?
I would say so. I mean, you can also see that in the behavior of the Draugr, you can sneak past them if you're good enough at sneaking, which means that they activate based on activity.
Yeah.
So they react to someone coming into the space and attacks them.
Yeah.
They're not just walking around attacking each other.
No, that's true. Yeah. And so again, maybe it is still an element of safety for the living, in so much as if you go down there, Draugr are more likely to attack you.
Indeed.
Possibly.
And
it's
also,
not necessarily about stopping looting.
You have the mechanism there that if you know to wait, you won't be hurt.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you just run along, you'll get stabbed.
So again, it's speaking to that sense of the informed, the initiated,
Indeed.
as opposed to Joe Bloggs. Yeah. Okay. But then again, I mean, I imagine Joe Bloggs would have been by now shot by poison arrows.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. Presumably set off poison arrows. Also yes, in that second room, and then stabbed by spears, and probably
Indeed.
Probably dead by now.
Probably.
Probably dead by now. Okay. So which way do you want to go then?
Well, I think we can stop a moment to just realize that the doors are very differently decorated,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe that's a hint.
Yeah. Yeah. In that sense, the door to the right is different, and it is something new. Maybe that is the way forward. The door ahead is very similar to the door that was the door that led into the chamber with the treasure chest just a little bit earlier. So, open iron door. Well, I'll leave it to you. Which one do you want to do?
I'm taking the one on the less embellished one.
Okay. Yep. Right. So we are into another catacomb chamber.
And we come into a living room of sorts.
Yeah.
A living space.
Very much. Yeah.
We have a burning hearth. We
We
have boots.
Now, is this where the name Shroud Hearth comes from? Perhaps.
Maybe.
Could this be the hearth with boots?
It also seems to have seen some recent use.
Yeah.
If we see on how much fresher everything is.
That's
We have
true.
a pelt rug.
Some
A
freshly
comfortable
chopped
bedroll.
firewood. Yeah.
An
That's-
alchemy lab.
Sleeping bag.
Yeah.
A
satchel. And I would say that you can see that these things might not be original. I mean, the table and the chair seem to have seen far more use.
Yeah.
The other things.
Yeah. So these things are not as old as the tomb itself. Definitely. Yeah.
Which
And
is
also-
that we might have found our missing adventurers' sleeping quarters.
Quite possibly, yes. Now, just behind you, just behind the, directly across from the hearth, there, is that in fact a secret exit and entrance?
It looks like it. Sure looks like it.
Yep. Okay. But we can't get in it from this end, though.
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Cool. We also have that interesting pottery as well at the bottom of the bookshelf, which is quite cool, with the sort of
Yes.
zigzag pyramidal motif, which again, as you say, is distinct for this particular tomb. That doesn't seem to be part of the ancient Nord culture
No.
necessarily. Okay.
But it's a dead end anyway.
Yeah, it is a dead end.
So to get further in, we have to walk back. And
Oh, actually, no. There you go. There was another pot there. So actually, maybe I just haven't spotted those pots elsewhere. Oh, is that another booby trap?
yep.
You're not willing to be damaged for science on this one.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Now, just out of interest, on PC, how do you get a notification of? Oh, is it a noise notification when you're picking the lock? You get like a click type sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I've been playing obviously consoles for too long, and on more recent iterations on the console, you get a physical vibration when it clicks into place. So yeah, I'm spoiled in that sense. But okay, so presumably these two would have horribly gassed you or something, or burned you alive.
Yeah, I would guess so.
Yeah.
But no, we're not having that.
And we have also a fairly substantial change in architecture in terms of the doorway here.
Indeed, and the size of the trap. I mean, from what we have seen so far, it's been small holes hidden in the walls. This is huge.
Yeah, substantial, monstrous traps. Yeah, okay. But it speaks to this sense of escalation. You're going further into the tomb, the more intensely they don't want either you to proceed or things to come out.
Indeed.
Okay.
And then we have a huge hallway.
Yeah, yeah. In many ways, a beautiful space, actually.
Indeed. And also we have these intricate carvings. Showing people and gods and the culture.
Yeah, well, and actually that's very reminiscent of the style that we see. There's a key. Is it called bas relief? Carving later on in the game, where it tells you the story of Parthenax in ancient times being defeated the dragon of Skyrim.
Indeed.
It's a very similar artistic style, although I think these are less fine than those ones, but they are nonetheless beautiful sculptures. Are those butterflies, do you think, emanating from around?
I think so.
Figure?
Stars, maybe.
Oh yeah, almost like owls on that one. Yeah.
Seems to be fairies or dragonflies on the first one.
Yeah. Okay, very pretty. Maybe we'll have to go looking for some books in Skyrim to tell us a little bit of this story. But nonetheless, flying motifs there. Okay.
And the flying seems to be a common demeanor in all of them.
Yeah, wings, and what are they?
Dragons, I would say.
Oh, okay. So, I see. Yes, sorry. Those are the claws for the beasts above, aren't they? Really? Yeah. Sun and moon motif as well.
Indeed.
Actually, could that be a werewolf? Or is that simply a warrior wearing wolf skin, do you think?
No, it could be that the whole depiction is a werewolf.
Okay.
Because if you step back and look at it, you have what seems to be a wolf skull and shoulders on the top.
Yeah.
And then we have the claws and the arms coming out in what I thought was dragons.
Yeah.
And then we have the woman with the sword and the armor beneath.
There's also stars as well. There's a star up to the right-hand side there.
And the moons on either side of her.
Yeah.
I would say this is a clear werewolf motif.
Okay, cool, interesting. So, could these be people who control different elemental creatures then?
It could be.
Because it looks like you have people carrying the recently deceased, maybe looks like royalty perhaps, kings or something being carried. And I think they're being carried to meet these people.
Or maybe to be guarded by them.
Could be, yeah, could be. It could be that these people maybe they guard some sort of transition, and maybe actually that's the whole point of this space. Maybe this space is, in that sense, a transitional space from one significant part.
I would say that it is. You have a clear transition in how the burrow is formed. From before you enter this space and afterwards.
Yeah.
And this is clearly a place of some symbolic and rather grand stature.
It's almost sort of a reflection in that sense on that transition, I guess.
And I'm thinking that this might tell the story of the space. It might be guardians or important people of for the barrow itself. Or maybe just hold some other specific meaning for the ones being passed through.
Yeah. Okay. But again, that's something for us to note. It warrants further research.
Indeed.
And
it is that kind of research that, as an archaeologist, you would go to the local folklore and historical text to find.
Exactly. Yes. And thankfully, the world of Skyrim has plenty of texts
Indeed.
to refer to. Okay. Cool. Right. So it's all getting a bit misty. On we go.
And here we have a ruined space with a table.
It's almost like a ruined embalming table.
Yeah. And straight in front of that we have this person with fire and still the procession going on.
That's true. Yeah. Does that continue around, sort of around the corner almost, as it were?
No.
No. So from here you descend further.
So that is the last picture.
Yeah.
And that last picture is spaced straight in front of the door that you enter the space in. So you walk to it.
Yeah. So you have these 6 murals leading up to that final mural. And actually, did you notice the cat on that final one?
The cat?
Yeah, there's a cat. Bottom left.
Isn't that a dog?
Oh, is it a dog? I thought it was a cat.
I think it's a Rottweiler of sorts.
Oh yeah, no, it's more like a dog. So it's just dead. Sorry, I got you excited for no reason.
You're just trying to please me.
No, yes, I thought it was a cat. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So down we go, and seemingly past another table, another spot where people can refer to or prepare for. Yeah, so more books, more materials.
And then we come out, and I would say that this space or this entrance seems to be a service entrance, if I might put it that way.
Yeah, it's almost like it's off stage.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Because it isn't the focus of the room. You don't come out into a room and get it straight away.
No.
It's not meant to impress you as you enter.
So who do you think? What do you think is the focus of this room then? Where do you think the audience, as it were, would
of
stand?
the room is here.
Okay.
So we have a pedestal with a book.
Yeah.
We have 2 very, very neatly put coffins. And then you have another stage leading up to one central place of rest.
Yeah.
And if we walk down the stage and enters here, we have 2 smaller resting places.
Yeah. But also resting places.
We have action.
Oh, okay.
Well, you can keep talking. I'm just going to make sure we're safe to continue this investigation.
Well, I was going to say, next to those 2 smaller tombs, there are rings attached to poles, seemingly to. Incidentally, you've got some lovely weaponry.
Indeed.
Rings attached to poles that look as though they are there to restrain people. You can maybe attach a rope or a chain to them. I wonder if there's an element of. Well, I suppose initially my mind goes to sacrifice. Maybe punishment, maybe forced reflection, given the sort of the bank of candles that are close to those graves. It's warrants a further look, but we'll let you deal with these Draugr first. Yeah,
That's fine. You can keep talking. I'm just. I mean, this is an important part of being an archaeologist in Skyrim. You have to be able to deal with the Draugr as you come along.
With
Because
this,
it doesn't matter that the dungeon says that it's cleared. If they have been gone for more than a month, then they have respawned.
do you think this would be part of the first year course? It would be a case of, maybe day 2. Okay, you've got your trowel
Sword
now.
fighting.
How to deal with Draugr? You go into the lecture hall, and there at the front of the room is this twitching undead chained to the wall, and so today we're going to learn.
I have collected this for you, which means that your professor went out into a tomb, collected some Draugr, didn't kill them, and brought them back for you to practice on.
Indeed, these are the weakest parts of the Draugr. Yeah, exactly. No, actually, the very fact that Draugr sometimes collapse into magical humming piles of ash maybe speaks a little bit to the fact that they are imbued with something that turns them into Draugr, as opposed to simply dead or embalmed dead people.
Indeed.
So
it also depends on what you're carrying. I am carrying the Dawnbreaker, which is especially mean to Draugrs.
Yeah.
Because I feel that as someone walking into tombs where I know they might be, I should be equipped as best as I can to be dealing with them.
That's true, but I suppose nonetheless, even though you are essentially carrying a undead defying weapon, the fact that can do that to them, it wouldn't do that to a normal living
Indeed.
person. Yeah, it probably speaks to something going on, and I wonder whether that's a case of these dead become so soaked in, I don't know, the atmosphere or whatever else is happening in these places, and they simply reach a critical mass and then become Draugr, or whether they consume something, or whether they are subject to a ritual that creates them as Draugr. This is probably worth examining. But I noticed the spiral again on the pedestal there. It's very reminiscent of the stuff that's on the trap mechanisms.
One thing that I thought of as an archaeologist, as I fought this Draugr, is that the mere presence of them, and the fact that you need to fight, as you try to examine or excavate, means that things rarely end up in situ.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
It disturbs the context of the tomb.
Yeah. By definition, we absolutely have. That said, that is an ongoing issue in real-world archaeology, and frankly, in any science where we make observations, isn't it? The idea that you are, by observing, you by definition, you alter the thing that you're observing.
Maybe not forcefully as accidentally knocking a book off a pillar when you're trying to strike something down with a sword, but
no, indeed, you're like a Skyrim version of Ian Hodder. You're considering the interpretation at the trial's edge. Well, forcefully. It's almost like instead of getting your students to record themselves excavating, you're going and kicking the trench wall. But if you just go back to those to that lowest of these 3 stages, then do you think then perhaps there's this element of people are processed in from one of these seemingly side entrances that we came in through, and they are maybe attached to these poles, and something occurs. Maybe this is where the Draugr are made, actually. Maybe this is at that pedestal. Maybe something happens to them here.
I mean, it gives a feeling of that someone is going to stand by the pillar or by the
pedestal,
by the altar, maybe pedestal, and talk to you.
Yeah, it's like a lectern. Yeah.
And then you have these 2 tombs on each side and the big one behind, giving a very
actually reinforcing the speaker's status. They literally have these big things behind them, and you're looking at him or her with these things behind them. That's quite interesting, actually. Yeah. And so, I mean, at this stage, I quite like this idea that maybe you're in this space, and whether willingly or not, you're being told, well, for the greater good, you're going to become a Draugr. And you're going to protect this wonderful tomb. And well done. And maybe that's why you have the chainable space next to you. Or maybe the chains aren't always required, because actually there aren't any chains visible. So maybe, maybe more often than not, these people were volunteers.
But I would say that you don't put small pedestals with hoops to be able to chain things up if you're not thinking of using them.
Yeah, well, exactly, yeah. So there probably would be a few people who were a bit like, I don't want to be here. Like, no, you're going to sit there and listen to... Actually, didn't they used to chain in certain religious Christian orders? Then isn't there something that goes across people's legs in pews?
Yeah.
Is it... maybe it's an American sort of 17th, 18th century thing. So that's worth researching anyway at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right, but obviously this seems to be a slightly more extreme
in Sweden we mostly just poked people with poles to make them stop falling asleep by that time.
Poke them with poles. Although actually, I noticed that obviously all the doors have closed around us as well.
Indeed.
Yeah. So was that when the Draugr woke up?
As they woke up, all the doors closed.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And there's just the mechanism to open it.
A fancy little lever in the back end of the room.
Which again speaks to you either having the power to, or the
know-how.
The know-how to subdue them, or to not arouse them in the first place. Yeah. Okay. And through we come to another wooden staircase, but also crucially, an openable trapdoor with a great big watery cavern below. This is interesting. Oh.
I closed it so I could.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
So it's a flooded trap then.
Mhm.
Interesting. But again, in the context of a destroyable staircase, the trap at the bottom is intriguing. This leads me to wonder. Is there anything down there? Is that something? If you were to swim down there, does that extend?
Check it out. I don't have Lydia with me, so swimming should be fine. No, it just seemed to be a space to
drown. Interesting. And it looks like some people have been trapped down here, actually. Yeah. Okay.
Some of them didn't see the chain.
No. Some of them didn't see the chain. Okay, right, so, what's up the stairs, then? Again, in this context of destroyable steps, actually these are much less substantial than the ones that were on the entrance to the tomb.
Indeed.
To the barrow.
And there's still a doorway in the middle of the staircase.
Yeah.
That's made of iron and obviously isn't destroyable.
Yeah. But also, actually, in that sense, if you got an iron door, if you were burning the stairs, the iron door won't be affected by that process.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But you could never get to the door again.
No. But I mean, presumably, if
you wouldn't want to.
Exactly, or destroying the steps is such an act of last resort or safety that, yeah, as you say, it wouldn't be a concern whether or not you get back in this space. So in here we have actually quite a beautiful. Oh, hello. Wow. Why didn't they attack you?
I don't know. Maybe I'm charming.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Hello.
But it's a rather beautiful space.
Yeah, I quite like the little window for moonlight to come in. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it seems to be an opening up top.
Yeah, it's quite pretty. Okay, little some fern growth as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so another little private space. I think a little antechamber almost. And then beyond this you have...
Some urns.
Interesting. So do you think this is the nuts and bolts?
Ooh.
This is the workings of the.
Now I'm going to do something that is not advisable if you want to preserve the space. Let's take out the bow.
Mm-hmm.
And as we can see, there's a small urn there with fire within it.
Yes, there is. Yes. Oh. Yeah, this is not best practice.
It's not, but it saves you the risk of disturbing any other contexts with fighting the skeletons.
Oh, I see. You've limited the damage, the area of damage. I see. Yes.
But going back to the space.
Yeah. Well, so this is halfway up that wooden staircase.
Indeed.
So we come into this space that seems to have a sort of furnace and a central gathering area with a few different wooden ramps coming into it. And is this the only way into this area, is it?
Let's see. I'm curious about this because here's a space with a treasure chest that I can't get into yet because it's blocked with and a secret doorway.
So that's actually
this is interesting, I think.
Yeah.
That you have hidden a doorway within basically a coffin.
Yeah, a doorway that looks like a coffin. Yeah. And so does that mean that potentially that little the viewing hole that you saw the treasure chest through wasn't always there? That maybe that's collapsed into the room or something, and the space was intended to be adequately hidden by that.
I think so. Or that you're not meant to come from that end.
Yeah.
Because if you were going to come up these stairs, you wouldn't see it.
No, that's true. Yeah. I see. And so, so therefore, again, with this, the sense that little space that we passed through with the sunlight coming in, the one skeleton, that wouldn't be it wouldn't be normal people or average people passing through that space. But then again, in that sense, we've already kind of established that this whole
you can keep talking.
That this whole area, this whole barrow and this whole underground area wouldn't be for normal people anyway. So is this where if we sort of step outside ourselves for a second and acknowledge that we're playing a computer game, is this where actually we are seeing the edges of the the stage curtain being revealed in that sense? That for example, that treasure being behind the stone, the tomb, the door that's disguised as a tomb, but having given us a little sneak peek of the treasure chest within, is specifically designed like that because it's a computer game.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it gives you the inclination to go look for an entrance.
Yeah. And so, well, okay. If we try and reconcile that though with in-game logic or the in-universe logic, could this whole space therefore be designed to be explored by the knowledgeable? In so much as
maybe.
Could this be a series of rites of passage? Because some of these tombs are already open. You can see the doors that are fallen onto the floor. Tables have been smashed. Pots have been broken. And that might not necessarily be a result of looting. It could actually be that perhaps in ancient times the people who were burying their dead here would also have to explore this place. And
indeed.
Presumably be very adept at dodging axes as well.
Yes. But that door also reveals something that in-game, in lore, would be interesting. That almost every door in here is open. Or has easy enough lock for you to be able to pick.
Yeah.
But that door requires a key. Which would suggest that space is out of bounds for the ones exploring.
Yes, that's true. And so, what possibly could be beyond that door that warrants such? Well, actually, such obvious defence as well. That's a deterrent. That's not designed to trap you by accident.
A reasonable person would not run up to that door and try and open it.
Yeah. Whereas the other traps so far, you set off by accident or through not knowing that they're there. Otherwise, whereas that's basically say this is here. Do not try and walk through these things. So. Do you happen to know how we get through that?
I can't remember it straight away. There's usually a lever on the other side of the trap that makes it stop so you can go back safely. Which, if I could find such a lever on this side, would suggest that we came in through the back. But I can't see anyone. But I can't remember what's inside of there. Oh, that's frustrating.
Well, could the key to this door be further on in the tomb then? Could it be higher up on that spiral staircase? Or do you think that it's more likely to be closer by?
I'm going to check the Draugrs I slayed.
You slayed? You mean you preserved in situ?
Indeed. Of course, that's what I mean. There could also... This could be interesting if the key is in here. But it's not. So it wasn't that. Because that would have been an interesting thing.
Sort of relationship between those two, yeah.
Indeed. But yes, I would think that the key is a quest item.
Okay.
That's either further inside this tomb or somewhere else in Skyrim, waiting to be found.
Well, okay. We'll bear that in mind then as we proceed. So up the wooden staircase and to another iron door.
Locked. Master.
Intriguing.
This might take a while.
Yeah. Master lock. Are you sure you cleared this barrow beforehand?
I have. It was a year or so ago. Oh.
It's a difficult thing being in a Skyrim commercial unit, isn't it?
It is.
You think that you've cleared a space out so it's safe to observe, and it's full of Draugr and Master Locks. Now here we all get to watch your amazing unlocking skill.
Yeah.
Oh, well done.
You know, it just takes some time.
Yeah.
And we're in a locked space.
Yeah.
Is this the end of our excavation of this barrow?
It might be. It might be. It certainly shows sign of collapse.
Maybe the key's in here.
Oh, experts. Now, is expert harder than master?
No.
I like the way you quickly answer that, like I've cast aspersions upon your unlocking skill. No, it's not. Oh, okay.
Key.
Well done. No. Okay. Ebony bow, though. Okay.
I already have plenty of those. And we're doing this the proper way, so I'm not going to loot that.
No, exactly,
I'm
yes.
even going to leave this Grand Soul Gem.
Exactly.
Because it's important.
Mm-hmm. With it being left in place, though, or with those things being left there, do you think that's a result of collapse, or do you think that because you were talking about earlier about how people seemingly had left some of these areas quite quickly? Do you think that there was a moment when when people had to depart quickly. Like maybe
I
the
would
Draugr
say
became
so. I mean,
unruly.
throughout the barrow, we have seen things laying in places like they were just left there, and someone upped and walked away.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I would say that that's very possible.
Now then, I'm just I might be doing a little bit of additional research on the barrow just for a second.
Indeed. I mean, we have a key to find.
We do have a key to find.
We have a key to find. We have some questions to answer. And I'm thinking that we might do that some other time.
Possibly. I think actually this barrow is in fact a little bit larger than I remembered it being. Yes. but this has been a good initial foray into our archaeological survey of Skyrim, and I think well, frankly, I'm just glad to finally actually get this off the ground. So we're aiming, are we not, to do this every couple of weeks?
We are
aiming to, best intentions and all that. And are you currently making your way out and resealing things as you go?
Well, yeah, since we can't leave the proper way. I need to unlock this so we can.
You see, you're clearly not one of the initiated.
Nope, I'm just an archaeologist trying to get out. Do not laugh at me, Mark.
I shouldn't find this amusing because I'm not. If I was playing this, I'd be like, oh, I'd be freaking.
You can see we're out.
Okay, well done.
I was just about to say we can also see how fast it takes to just walk out of the dungeon when you know how to do it.
Yeah. However, again, you get this very strong sense of there being. It's a staged. It's almost like a staggered or staged retreat in that sense. It's a series of safety mechanisms, and it definitely demarks, I would say, an increasing threat level and an increasing desire to keep both things out and things in. Okay, well done. We finally got the first of these explorations done, and I don't mind that this has been a bit larger than we thought it was going to be, because actually, maybe would it be unreasonable to take two little episodes to survey a tomb?
I think not.
No.
I think not. I mean, I think also us not entirely knowing the tomb before we go in gives a better experience as if how an archaeologist would view it.
That's true, actually. Yeah. So in that sense, I don't feel too bad now, because I was okay. Oh, we didn't do our homework, but actually, you wouldn't, do you? You wouldn't know what's in there.
You wouldn't be able to do your homework.
Exactly. Yes. Precisely. You can't redo the survey or the experiment, the excavation. Okay. Thank you. You've made me feel better.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Also, as well, I love the way the demonic horse is just looking at you, waiting for
a very, very nice demonic horse.
He's a good horse, isn't he?
He is.
Aww.
He keeps me safe.
Oh. Well, thank you, Liv, and hopefully this will be the first of many interesting explorations in Skyrim, and also hopefully we'll be able to start bringing together ideas as we look at other tombs and also look further into this tomb. For example, I'm intrigued by those murals because I've never really looked at them in other barrows as well. So I wonder if they repeat in other barrows, and I wonder what they might mean.
Well, that's the thing that we can explore as we go through more barrows.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you for joining me, and also thank you everyone at home for watching and listening, and hopefully commenting or contributing, and we look forward to further adventures in the Skyrim Archaeological Survey.
Indeed.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.